good evening. Good evening, everyone. It's good to be here with you tonight. As Bakun said, I was a member, and I'm still a member of the Ladder Back Down, stay in the initial stages. It's been incredibly hard to get this time in the diary, but here we are tonight. I'm glad to be here tonight. And yes, Bakun did say she's known for about 12, 15 years. I can recollect. It's about 20 years, I would say, so longer than she thought. But yeah, I'd like to thank you, first of all, for inviting me to present tonight. And I'd like to thank you for all the good work you've done for this community and beyond. Even in my early stages, you've been a force to reckon with for many people you've helped to grow over the years, for the best part of 2 decades that I've known you. So thank you for all you do, and thank you to the entire Ladder Back Down community. I will be more regular as time goes on. So yeah, good to meet you all, and hopefully in time I get to meet you all in person. Well, meet you or meet you in person, whichever way it goes. Tonight I'm presenting the masterclass on project management. I know that uh, this time, more than any time in history, technology has been a thing that everyone's got to take seriously if we all want to be relevant. Technology is here to stay, and it will be here for many, 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 many years. Project management is one of the very good areas of tech that many people can pivot into. I believe the barrier entry to project management isn't that difficult for anyone who's serious about it. So what I'm hoping to do tonight is to showcase some aspects of project management to us tonight. For many of us, we might not have heard these terms before. We might not be conversant with project management as as an industry. Some of us, I'm very sure, would know some of the things we're talking about, and hopefully, I can shed a bit more light on some of the topics that I'll cover tonight. Bit of intro to myself. Ibuku has kindly talked about me. I'll just talk a little bit more about it. So, I've been in the industry for close to 15 years, and I've been training for about 12 years. I started organized trainings in 2013. I have been in portfolio delivery for the past 12 years, initially starting off working on projects. Um, Today, my role will span from running portfolio offices for organizations, helping them to develop or improve the change or project management capabilities, the processes, and just helping them to do things better, whether it's in the infancy stage or it's in a stage where it just needs a bit of help just to make sure things are proper. That's what I do. I'm a freelance contractor. Last few years, I'm more settled in the London market insurance space, but I've got experience spanning across public and private sector, um, consultancy to governmental bodies and some decent private institutions across the world. So I wouldn't bore you with the details of those companies, although I have them listed um, on this page. I can be found on LinkedIn, so you can see more of the details of my expertise. So initially starting off working as a PMO analyst and growing up to become a program manager, portfolio lead, portfolio office manager, PMO manager, Scrum Master, um, planning lead, and all like. So, as I said, private and public sector experience. So I know a thing or two I can, share tonight. Hopefully, many people will find some of the things we'll cover tonight very, very useful, as we will be showcasing project management in a very good light tonight. So pleased to be here tonight. Um, I also, in my other life, well, in my other life that I live, apart from freelancing, contracting in the IT space, I also run ProMasters, which I founded. Um, and what we do is just help people to get into high-paying tech jobs. I train project management myself, but I've got other seasoned veterans, I would call them. Some of them have way more experience than I do. We'll be doing the other training sessions that we offer the Pro Masters. But tonight we're presenting project management, which is my baby, my first love. an area of profession that I believe I was called into, and I love, and I could talk project management in my sleep without ever getting bored. And when I talk about project management, everything comes alive. So I hope to share some of my knowledge with you tonight. So, in terms of topics, you would have seen this on the flyer. We're talking about project program portfolio management, trying to explain what those things are. Because a lot of times when people talk project management, not many people talk about program and portfolio management, which is the next step, to project management. So hopefully we'll touch on what those things are, and because that also has an indication of what the career path is, um, from just running projects. So we'll talk about what projects are, what programs are, what portfolios are, and we'll talk about how the management works for those three different, although related, subjects. We'll be talking briefly on project management methodologies, and then I'll try and do a quick run through three key knowledge areas in project management, and there are many others, but we haven't got time to cover them all tonight. There's about 12, 13 different knowledge areas that I personally believe you have to understand to call yourself a project management professional. And all of them can be niche areas as well. They are uh, big areas in their own rights. I'm blessed to have worked in many of these areas before, so I can talk about them. But yeah, we're talking about three of them in a very brief. We're going to talk about them briefly tonight. And we'll talk about why we need project management. One of the questions I used to get asked many, many years ago when I joined the industry and I started training was people used to say to me then, why do we need project management? Is project management, is it a rave of the moment? Is it going to go away? And I've had to answer that question, you know, for the last 12 years that I've been training. So I'll delve into why it is here to stay. So of course that then informs people on whether to make it a career choice as you explore your opportunities in tech as a whole. And then lastly, I'll be talking about project management career paths and opportunities. Again, people talk about project manager, project manager, project manager. There are um, other routes in project management that you can go through, all very rewarding, all catering to different type of skill sets, different types of backgrounds that we all have, experiences that we all have. And some of them it just could be a case of the aspiration that you have, which areas you want to go into. But hopefully tonight, I can touch all these areas and bring some clarity, and then help somebody to maybe make an informed decision or maybe just gain some knowledge about project management as a whole. So those are the topics. If there are any questions at any point in time, please note the questions down. If it is relevant to the particular topic, then I might answer it as we move along. Or if you're able to wait till the end of the session, we'll have good question and answer session so we can cover all your questions. We'll do our best to answer your questions tonight. But if it's in particular about a particular knowledge area that I'm talking about, then feel free to stop me and ask the question, type it in the chat room. I'll be reading the questions in the chat room as I go along. So let's get it started. So it's a masterclass, so I expect that we're all, sitting somewhere comfortable. I've had to leave my house tonight to come to a different location to have this call because I've got family around and I couldn't do this when people are around. So I hope you get yourselves, make yourselves comfortable, sit somewhere quiet. It's a masterclass, so there will be a lot to learn, especially for those who haven't had any exposure to project management before. So, yeah, make yourselves comfortable as we start in the next 5 to 10 seconds. So, let's get started. First topic we're going to talk very quickly about is project program and portfolio management. There are many definitions for projects, but it is my view that this definition is probably one of the best. Again, feel free to explore different definitions, but this is the one I've chosen. This one I've always used, and you'll see why as I go through this session. So, project, according to Project Management Institute, PMI, is defined as a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. The key words there is temporary, doesn't run forever. It's got a start, it's got a duration, and it's got an end. Um, Another point there is it creates a unique product, a unique service, a unique result. Think about your mobile phones. Think about when we had brick phones and we moved on to smartphones, the BlackBerry days, the iPhone 3 days, and as we, think of where we are right now. So each iteration of those are projects, themselves, although they created products. So think about improving things, creating unique results by operating something temporary. That's what a project is. Many of us on this call have been, I would dare say, nearly everyone on this call has been involved in projects before because you would have had to do something unique, run it over a period of time, start, run it, finish it, and create something unique. Think about your wedding parties, your birthday parties, family gatherings, a travel abroad, a loft conversion, kitchen extension, house conversion, house renovation, and all that kind of stuff. They're all projects in their own right, because there was a definite outcome you expected, a unique result, and you ran it over a period of time. The only difference is you would have run those projects without having formal project knowledge, formal project knowledge disciplines. You wouldn't have had that, but you've all run projects before. So a project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique service or result, or even an improvement on those products, service, or result. Um, we know, I use a knife, a Samsung Z Folder 5 or 6. I know for a fact in another year or so there'll be another one. There'll be another one the year after. There'll always be new ones. We all have cars. There's new iterations of cars. There's, new TVs. All our devices will always get upgraded. I say this to say that we're always going to have projects, regardless of any industry we are. Um, you're going to have road repairs. You're going to have house repairs. You're going to have, you know, houses constructed, estates constructed, and many other things. So projects are always going to be around. And it doesn't matter the industry, all industries. I'm blessed to have worked in many industries, as I'm sure many people on this call have. So project management is across all industries. It's a temporary endeavor. It creates a unique service, a unique product, or a new result. So if you can answer yes to a start, a duration, and an end, you have yourself a project, even if the project finishes without achieving its objectives, it is still classed as a project. Now, project is unique in its own way, but then there's another side that, which is almost like the other side of projects that I need to talk about, and that is if anyone is on this call is not working on projects, then you're working on what we call BAU, operations, and I'll talk about that. So operations or operational work, or sometimes called BAU, which is an acronym for business as usual, is the other side of is the opposite of projects. So where a project has a unique product that you're creating, service or result, operational work isn't creating anything new, it's repetitive. A project runs over a period of time, operation work runs forever. Think about going to the bank to pay money over the till. Think about going to um, Sainsbury's for your shopping, to get groceries. If you go there, you do the same transaction every day, regardless of who's there. So operation work are the things you do to keep the business going. So you're always going to have, you don't measure them by the value, you measure them by volume, and they're there to keep businesses existing. Projects will seek to deliver something unique. Operational works will seek to carry on doing things on a day-to-day basis to keep the company afloat or the organization afloat. So it's either you're working on projects or you're working operation work, operations, or AU, which is an acronym for business as usual. It's always good to make that distinction. And now we know those distinctions. We know what projects are. We know what BAU means, operation work. Let's now go into what project management means. So project management, again, according to PMI, is defined as the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet the project requirements. Four key things in that definition: knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet the project requirements. Again, the many definitions for project management. Again, I consider this to be the best, especially because I'm in the training space. Um, because many people have come to me over the years and they'll say, I've got my Prince 2, I've got this and that, certifications. And I always have to explain to them, the Prince 2 certification, if you have it, is good, but it only fulfills a small section of knowledge. Doesn't really teach you much about skills, doesn't show you the tools as such, and it doesn't really help you to master the techniques, which are things you need to see in project management. It has its own elements. It's good for the knowledge base, but there are many things you need. There's isn't involved in Prince 2, and Prince 2 is just a methodology. We'll talk about methodologies in the next topic, so I wouldn't jump ahead of myself. The whole point about this is to understand that project management has knowledge involved, and that's part of what we're covering tonight. And there's technical knowledge as well as part of project management, which if you went to project management training, you'll be exposed to. There's skills, there's communication skills, there's soft skills, it's all kinds of skills that you need in project management. There are tools that we use in project management. We use Microsoft Project, for example, to plan projects. We use, Microsoft Office, Outlook, PowerPoint, as I'm sharing PowerPoint with you tonight. We use PowerPoint to present, dashboards and co. We have other tools like PPM tools. PPM tools is project portfolio management tools that we use. They're bespoke tools that we use to run projects. So there are lots of tools you need to be exposed to. We have Microsoft Teams, for example, which you use to collaborate. And sometimes you can use Microsoft Teams as a way of storing documents as well, which we call project repository. And there's tools like SharePoint, which you store documents with as well, which is a classic document sharing platform. So there are many tools that you need to be exposed to, that you need to know to call yourself a project management professional. Hence why I think, or I've come to that conclusion, that the best definition for me is to define project management as the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet project requirements. So if you're able to get the all-round picture, all-round training or exposure to the knowledge part, the skills part, to the tools and techniques, then you can call yourself a project management professional. So that's to make the clarification that just studying a certification isn't enough to call yourself a project manager. And that's why I think it's difficult for even universities to run courses in project management because it's hard to put all these things together. But I think that's the evolution that we need to have. I think project management can be taught at university level. I know there's a few universities that run them at master's level, I think. But you need all these four things to come together. And a lot of the things you do sometimes is about exposing people to techniques, and it's difficult to put that in a book for anyone to read. So there's a lot of apprenticeship in project management. Anyways, project management summarize application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques, and you need those four areas covered to call yourself a project management professional. I hope that is clear. The next thing I talk about is project life cycle. There are five phases in the project life cycle. One, initiating a project. Two, planning a project. Three, executing. Four, monitoring and control. And five, closing. I'll come back. Let me take it one step back. So when you start a project, there's a phase you go through to get your decisions made on what you want to do. Every project must have a definite scope in terms of what it wants to deliver. Actually, there are three main things. I haven't put them in the slide, but I'll talk about them and I'll go to the project life cycle. There are three project constraints, sometimes called the Holy Trinity of project management. Three things that are very key at the start of a project that you must nail down. And what a project manager does is to manage all those three things with different tools, different processes, different templates as you deliver the project. One of them is the time. There must be a definite timeline for delivering a project. The other is the cost budget. There must be a definite cost that has been approved to be spent on that project. And the other one is the scope. Scope just means what are we going to deliver? What exactly are we delivering? Um, for example, I want to build a retirement home, a five-bedroom house, all en suite, based in Manchester, with swimming pool, with basketball courts, with a gym and all that kind of stuff. You've got to be specific on what you want to deliver, and that forms the scope, the boundaries of which you want to deliver things. So those three things, I always use the acronym TCS: one for time, two for cost, three for scope. Those three things have to be agreed at the very start. So what happens is when you initiate a project, you have those three things buttoned out. You must be clear on those three items. I want that house built and I want it complete at the end of December 2025. We don't run projects without having an end date. Now, that doesn't mean you deliver to that end date, because things change. As they always say, the only thing that's constant in change is change. So another word used in project management, you can use, sometimes they use the word change to define projects. So a project community will be referred to as a change community. And that, saying that the only thing common in change is change, means things always move, and that's fine. We have procedures and techniques in which we manage those changes. So time, cost, and scope must be clear from the very first stage. Now, when you initiate a project, there are documents that we use, and there are governance forums that we go to get projects approved. Normally, you write what you call a business case, which is a justification of why you're doing the project. In some organizations, it's called investment case. In some other organizations, especially in IT, uh, tech-based organizations, it might be called a PID, a project initiation document. In some organizations, they use what they call statement of work, although it shouldn't be, but a statement of work is just a breakdown of what you're going to deliver. It's a contractual document, but it will contain why you're doing the project, what you're doing, the timeline, the risk and issues, and all that kind of stuff. So you can be used. So the niche, the main document that comes out of initiating the project is a business case or a an investment case in some organizations, or a PID, or a statement of work. Or sometimes some organizations have a project brief, although I wouldn't advise that you use that, but you can use a project brief. In any case, all these documents tell you what you're delivering, why you're doing it, the timeline you've got, how much money you're spending, who's doing it, etc., etc. It gives you a full picture of what you're trying to deliver. Once you go past the initiation phase, you then go into the planning phase. Now, if I asked you, you know, many of you who are good cooks here, how do you cook a type of meal? I'm sure in your head you know the steps you would take to cook that meal. What you haven't done is to document it in a project management way. So in project management, we don't keep things in our heads. We need to document the steps, the activities, how long it's going to take, and who's doing them in form of what we call a project plan. And it can take a while to build, but we build project plans in project, and we have different tools used to build projects. MSP being the most popular one. MSP means Microsoft Project, but we will try tonight to build a simple plan using an Excel. We can do that as well. I remember working on the national coronavirus response for NHS England in COVID, that I built the plan to deliver the response to Omicron variant using Excel, because the people working in that organization didn't have that much of change management knowledge to use a classic MSP tool. They understood Excel, so we use Excel. And what we'll do tonight is to build a simple plan using Excel, because you can. Although I said in real organizations, you want to use a more sophisticated tool, Microsoft Project being one of them. And then once you plan the project, you go into executing the project. You carry out the plan, you perform all the activities you planned. If you want to, in the case of cooking, as we said, you want to boil the water for 10 minutes, season the food for 10 minutes, and all that kind of stuff. You probably can tell I'm a very bad cook, but all the steps you take, you have them documented, and you then start doing them when you execute. An execution phase and the next phase called monitoring and control sometimes go side by side. Sometimes people say they're the same, but it doesn't really matter. It's the understanding that matters. Monitoring and control means we track the project's progress and we make changes as needed to ensure that the project remains on track. There are many processes and tools that we use to track projects. An example of them is a status report, which we will cover tonight. A status report will tell you what is the status of the project. By the way, I need to make this very clear that in project management, anything you see, most things have literal meanings, English meanings. It's exactly what it says. So a status report just means a report of a status of a project. So most things in project management have literal meanings. You use a status report to track the progress of your project, to let your stakeholders know, your progress, the things you've done well, the things you're struggling with if you need any help. And then we have other things like, actions log, which you use to track actions. And most of us have, I'm sure, notepad, things to do, things to do for the week and all that. That's a form of actions log. The only difference is we take those items, put it in a better structured way, or, sometimes in an Excel log, and track actions. So in our minds, we track the things we do all the time. We just don't use it in form of an actions log. And there's other logs that we use to monitor and control projects. And then lastly, once a project is delivered, we go through a closing phase where we close the project in a controlled manner. Usually we, write a closure reports and we do other things in that stage. All we're trying to do is we refer to where we started in form of initiation. What are the things we committed to do from start? And where have we ended? What have we delivered? We said we were going to deliver X, Y, Z, spending X million, delivering it over X period of time. And in the end, we have to document how we've done against those metrics. Have we delivered to the scope that was agreed from the start? Have we delivered in that timeline? If not, document the reasons why things changed. And things are allowed to change. We just have to have controlled way of documenting these things. And then we got to measure. We're given £1 million to build the 5-bedroom retirement house I talked about earlier on. How did we spend the money? Did we overspend? Did we underspend? Because if you're going to overspend, there are processes you must go through to be able to pass that through. You can't just spend money you haven't got. Somebody's got to pay for it. So if you need more money, there are things you can do in form of a change request, which we're not talking about tonight. But this is just to say there are things we do to manage things when they don't go according to the plan that we had. So whenever anything changes in form of the timeline that we agreed from the start, the cost that we agreed from the start, and the scope that we agreed from the start, we go through a formal governance process called change request to bring about those changes. So things can change, just manage in a certain way. Now, all these 5 phases, or as I said, sometimes we call them 4 phases. All these 5 phases are the stages you go through when you're delivering a project from beginning to the end, sometimes called end to end or inception to completion. They're all semantics for the same thing. And usually the hint to this is when you go for a project management interview and somebody says, tell me about a project that you've been involved in end to end. You should go through these phases and the things you did in those 5 phases. So I'm sure I haven't talked about this. I could probably give you an assignment, although there's no way of marking it, to say, tell us a project that you've been involved in end to end and write down the story. And all you have to do is go through the wedding you planned, the birthday you planned, whatever extension you planned, and talk about what you did in those 5 phases. And you've got the structure well mapped out, well clear to attack that kind of question if you decide to go through project management as a career. That's the tip to answer that questions at interviews. A lot of times when I do my trainings, I would always bring out interview questions because I don't just teach the subject matter, I like to teach the principle behind it. So the technique to answer that question is by going through these 5 phases, talking about what you did in those 5 phases, the documents you used, the processes you used, the governance forums you used, and then you just smash that question to pieces. Um, I think we shall move on to the next stage. So I think projects are quite clear. We all understand what projects are. We understand what project management is all about. We now know the difference between projects and operational work. We now know what project management is, and we now know the five phases of project life cycle. Now let's move very quickly to talk about programs and portfolio. Right, programs. So think about projects as being at this level. Program is the next level. Um, Program, according to PM Book, is defined as a group of related projects managed in a coordinated way to obtain benefits and control not available from managing them individually. Let me break that down. Think about a program as a combination of projects, at least two projects or more. Could be two, could be more, could be 10, it could be 15, could be whatever. It could be a number of work streams, right? Coming up together such that you cannot obtain the benefits of everything without delivering everything, if that makes sense. So think about, I talked about example of building a retirement home, a five-bedroom home as a project. So that's a project building a single entity. Think about building an estate. An estate would be at least two units, maybe 5, 10, 15, 20, or whatever, 1,000 units. It means more than one unit of the same kind. You can't say you've built an estate once you've completed one house. You've got to build everything. So all the different parts, they're all related. I'm sure they're sharing the same, boundaries, maybe the same, um, you know, facilities, amenities, whatever it is. But they are related and you've got to manage them together. And that's what's called program. So program is a combination of projects, a combination of work streams. It just means the budget will be bigger. It means the scale is more. It's just bigger all in all. And that's the next step from project. So project at this level, program at that level. And then program management has the same definition as project management. It's the application of skills, knowledge, tools, and techniques to program requirements to meet the objectives of the program. Same set of skills, just a matter of scale. It's much bigger. Whilst you have one house costing you £1 million, an estate of 10 houses or 10 units will cost you £10 million maybe, or maybe more. There's a matter of scale. So natural progression is start at project level and you move to program level. Now, the highest level of project management is what we call portfolio. So again, project at this level, program is next level, and portfolio being the highest level. So portfolio is a collection of projects, programs, subsidiary portfolio, and even operations, even BAU work, managed in a way to achieve strategic objectives of an organization. What does that mean? Think of an organization as having different elements to it. So maybe you have the IT, IT strand of an organization. Think about the finance strand of an organization, maybe the HR and other different departments or strands of an organization. Um, what you find in portfolio is when you want to deliver strategic objectives to meet a particular need of an organization, maybe the IT, for example, maybe the IT portfolio where you have a number of projects. They don't have to be related. So a program is related projects. Portfolio, they do not have to be related at all, but they're all grouped together so we can manage them effectively to deliver objectives of the organization. So portfolio can have 10 projects, 20 programs, and a few other BAU operations going on. So portfolio is a lot, it's much bigger than projects, much bigger than programs. And with portfolio, you have to put this in a central place and you have to manage them with more having like the bird's eye view, not low level detailed things doing on a daily basis. You got to think about an organization and how to align what you're delivering to meet the strategic objectives of that organization. So, say for example, you're doing projects that have accountability to um, the CFO, the chief financial officer, for example. Sometimes they'll group everything together and call it the finance portfolio, for example. You could do that for IT, you could do that for HR, you could do that for different arms of an organization. It just means a collection of projects, a collection of programs, a collection of operations managed together so you can meet strategic objectives of organization. That's portfolio management. Um, and then so haven't done that now. We've covered what projects are, so we know what project management is, we know what programs are, we know what program management is, cover portfolio and portfolio management. We talked about project life cycle, project and BAU. Any questions so far? And I'll give 30 seconds for that before we move to the next topic, guys. Any questions on what we've covered so far? And as I said, in terms of progression, typically you start off on projects and you get more experience, knowledge, you move on to program level, and then you move on to portfolio. Um, that's the highest level. So let's move on. No questions. So let's move on. It means we're doing well. So let's talk about project management methodologies. So again, methodologies just means structured frameworks, structured guides, structured ways to guide the process of planning, executing, and completing projects. Methods just means different ways of doing projects. There are different ways of doing projects. Now, the two main ones I want to talk about, and I'll come to Prince 2 in a second, is waterfall and agile. So think about waterfall and look at the picture in there. Waterfall means it's just coming down. Waterfall is the old traditional way of delivering projects where you've got to finish one phase before you move to the next. So one phase has to finish before you move to the next. So think about the five-bedroom house that we're trying to build. We talked about this a few times tonight. What you do is you gather requirements, you analyze it, you design it, you implement it. You might do some, no, testing is usually used in software environment, but you make sure things are right, and then you think about your maintenance. It just means a skeptical, linear way of delivering projects where you move from one phase to the other. You conclude one phase, get an approval, move to the next. Get an approval, move to the next. Get an approval, move to the next. Usually, waterfall methodology is used in environments where you know your outcome, very predictable. I want a five-bedroom house. I want them all en suite. I'm very clear about my requirements. Um, that's what you use waterfall typically for. Now, but the problem with waterfall is it's so rigid because you have to complete one phase and move to the next, and it's very difficult, especially when you get things wrong. It's very difficult to go back. You've wasted time, wasted money, wasted resources. So to be able to accommodate for those flaws in waterfall, a more recent methodology has come up, which is called Agile. I say more recent because waterfall came first and Agile came second. Now, those complexities I talked about that waterfall couldn't fix in terms of, you have problems, you got to go back. Um, you have to wait till the end. So if you want to build a five-bedroom house, you can't enjoy the benefits of a five-bedroom house until you finish the whole build. You can't move into a house where you've just built the foundation. You've got to finish the whole thing. So benefits are not released so quickly in a waterfall environment. Now, that's where Agile comes in. Agile is more flexible, it's iterative, it focuses on delivering small things in small incremental parts, and it enables you to deliver things in increments. So you deliver some benefits, you take some feedback from your client, you improve things again next time round. So you don't have to wait for a whole year before you deliver the benefits to the client or the customer. You can deliver things as you move along, keep improving things in the background, and keep releasing the benefits to the client or customer as you go along. You take their feedback, and that's what often happens when you have mobile phones. You have your mobile phone, and then the mobile companies still keep doing upgrades in the background to, maybe functionalities, and then they say, update your phone with this functionality, and you get new things released to you. So you have the mobile phone, but then you're getting benefits all the time, and things are done in short amount of time, in small increments. That's where Agile comes in. So Agile is predominantly used in software environments, but not exclusively. I say that very advisedly. Predominantly, but not exclusively, because you can take elements of Agile and even use in waterfall. Some places they call them hybrid, waterfall and agile, or some call it wagile. Wagile means waterfall, agile is not a common phrase. Sorry, not a common term, but just understand it's a blend of both. But the classic way of combining both, because you can take things out of both um, methodologies and infuse them, which we call hybrid or agile. But just understand waterfall is more predictable outcome. Agile is not that predictable. We know what we want to deliver, but we want to give ourselves the flexibility to deliver more sometimes or to change things. You know, if you build a five-bedroom house, it's very difficult and you're at the roofing level. It's difficult for you to break it down and go back to three. Can't do that because you're going to have to destroy things to be able to go back to three-bedroom. But Agile is more flexible. You can respond to change very quickly. It's not um, it's not process heavy. It's not documentation heavy like the waterfall. Both have their places and both have their use, but you can tailor both to each other. Now, I'm only going to mention Scrum because Scrum is something most people have heard about. Scrum Master is something that's come more recently into the tech space for most people. I stumbled, sorry, into being a Scrum Master so 12 years ago, working at TFL, I didn't know what it was. I mean, I knew what Agile was, vaguely, but I was thrown into the deep end and I became a Scrum Master by being trained by my boss at TFL at the time. It just means Scrum is just a framework. Scrum is not a methodology. Now, bear that in mind. I hear people say that quite a lot. There's a difference. Agile is the methodology. Scrum is a framework of Agile. And what it does is I know it came originally from the rugby discipline, the sport of rugby. And you see, them all gather together, with their arms around each other's shoulder in a scrum team. That's where it came from. And what it does is you deliver things in short sprints. Sprints means 100 meters, 200 meters dash. So rather than waiting for a whole 1 year to deliver something, you deliver things in short sprints. And most organizations have the sprints to be 2 weeks. In some organizations, you have them as 3 weeks. Doesn't really matter. 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it means you can deliver something good, something tangible in a short amount of time. So what it does is we're not so heavy on you must deliver this at a certain date, you must deliver that at a certain date. We just say we're going to deliver 20 things in this quarter, January to March. And in those 20, in those 3 months, every 2 weeks, we're going to deliver something unique. We have everything we want to deliver in the form of a backlog. And every sprint, we just prioritize what we want to deliver. And that's all we focus on for that short amount of time. So that way you can deliver things. People see things being done as opposed to waiting for 3 months before things are done. So every sprint, you can deliver something new and you can take feedback and you can improve upon it. So that's what Scrum is all about. There are a number of ceremonies or events in Scrum, which a Scrum Master would have to facilitate, but that's essentially what Scrum is all about. A number of times, Scrum environments use tools like Jira and Confluence, or another tool which is more recent called Azure DevOps, ADO. Those are tools that you use to manage projects in Scrum environments or Agile environments. So again, this is why I keep talking about knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques. All of them have to come together. So that's the difference between waterfall and Agile. Waterfall is more traditional, predictable outcome. Agile is more flexible, iterative. You respond to change. For example, we know that you can't, it's very difficult for you to build that five-bedroom house I talked about in an agile, way. You can't build a foundation and take any benefit of the house. I can't live in a foundation. You got to complete it. So each methodology has its own merit and they're adapted as it fits the requirements of the project. Now, there are other methodologies. I won't go through all that. I just mentioned them by name: Lean, Prince2, Six Sigma, Critical Path Method, PERT, Adaptive Project Framework. But the one I want to talk about is the Prince2. As you can see, Print Projects in Controlled Environment. This is a UK-based methodology. It's a process-heavy methodology. Um, in all my years of contracts, and I've only worked in one organization that adopted Prince2, not in full, not in its entirety, but delivered based on Prince2. Is usually public sector based. It's process heavy, so many people shy away from it because it's very rigid on processes and documentation. Things are slower, hence why hence why public sector use it, maybe. But most organizations do not use Prince2. They'll tailor, what we call you tailor it. You take things from Prince2. You take things from Prince2 methodology and you adapt it to other methodologies. And that's why you don't find many organizations today using the Prince2 methodology. So if you, again, I say this to say that for people who may have done Prince2, it's great. It's good. I actually encourage people to start off any certification with Prince2 because Prince2 has a lot of terms and terminologies and project management, but Prince2 in itself doesn't show you how to be a project management professional. It's just one part of the elements that you need to be a project management professional. I think so that's Prince2 and the other ones. So each methodology you said has its own merits. An organization would decide what they need based on what they want to deliver, based on the um, maturity of the organization. I've worked in a few organizations where um, I was part of the move to delivering agile projects. Things have changed a lot since I've been in this in this industry, and I say the only thing constant is change. So yeah, waterfall, agile, Prince2, they're all different methodologies. I think we've covered that very well. Any questions on those? Um,
So there are a few questions here.
yes, we can take
In
them. I'll take them.
Thank you. In the chats window, a gentleman has asked the question, can a proposed digital transformation plan for overhauling business processes in an in a multinational company be a portfolio?
Absolutely, it can be a portfolio. As you said, digital transformation. Once you cover HR, IT, accounts, you already see different disciplines already. So you can have 5, 10 projects going in the HR space. That could be how they recruit this, the staff, how they manage exits of the staff, how they many different projects you can do in the HR space. IT would have loads of projects, I imagine, in any organization, because you always got to evolve. Tech is always evolving. And accounts will have their own as well. They might be implementing a new system, a new payment system, a new accounts management system, a new procurement system, or whatnot. You can already see a conglomerate of projects that are not related at all. But that could be classed as a portfolio. Absolutely, yes.
Thank you. And another individual has asked the question, is it possible to combine PM with Salesforce admin?
I imagine I think what you're saying is, can you combine it as a career, or is that what you mean? Is that as a career? Yes. Oh, absolutely. Beyond going into project management as a profession, I need to make this clear that I dare say that if you want to rise to very senior positions in any organization, it is important you understand project management. I'll tell you why. So most changes you deliver in organizations, usually the accountabilities for them will sit at very senior levels. You have D level, you know, directors and C levels, senior people who will be ultimately accountable for what's been delivered, ultimately, right? I mean, they might delegate, the ownership responsibilities to people below them, but they need to understand. So it's almost, I think it's difficult. You'll struggle to be a D level or C level without understanding project. I mean, to be accountable for something you don't understand. So even if you don't want to go into project management as a career, I think it's important you understand project management as part of your development into senior levels. So project management can be combined with absolutely anything. I have worked with colleagues in the past who are um, even accountants. They are accountants by training. They've acquired project management training and they become project accountants. You manage project accounts. So project is so, and we'll talk about, why do we need project management when we get to the next slide. You see how you can combine project management with almost anything at all. There are project engineers. Um, what else? There are project energy engineers. There are project finance analysts, HR, project HR analysts. There's many different things you can buy project management cuts across all industries, I dare say. When we had COVID in 2020, the way the country responded to that was setting up project teams. I worked on test and trace. Test and trace was a portfolio. I worked on test and trace. I wrote a lot of plans. They used to go to the cabinet office at the time. So um, the plan to move. So when I joined initially, the country had 100,000 daily testing capacities for COVID testing capacity. And the Prime Minister wanted to scale that up to 500,000 by the end of October 2020. I remember I built the plan. I'm not a subject matter expert, but the plan to show the visibility of how it's going to come about had to be built. You can see how project management worked well in that environment, Department of Health. I mean, that's completely different from the clinical people, who dealt with patients. But all those data and all that kind of stuff was still very useful for the country to respond to the virus. So I worked as a planning lead on test and trace. So yeah, project management cuts across everything. You can mix that with Salesforce admin definitely and many other disciplines. The next question from Chuka says, can you explain how Prince 2 and CPM are different methodologies and are they not waterfall project method? You can consider them waterfall. Absolutely. You can consider them waterfall. It's just that there are many other things they do. There's many other things specific to them, but you can broadly class them as waterfall. Absolutely. Because you finish one stage before you move to the other in the case of Prince 2 as well. In Prince 2, all the requirements for the next stage have to be agreed from the previous stage. So you agree the stage, the requirements for the next stage. And then once you meet it, you say, have we met that? Have we met this? Have we met that? And then you move on to the next stage. So yeah, you can consider a CPM and Prince 2 as part of a waterfall. Absolutely. I hope that's okay, Chukwemeka. And Yinka, I hope you got your answer too. But the reason why I brought it out is just to explain why Prince 2 alone on its own, as a lot of people, because many people have Prince 2. I just brought that out to explain that it's just one methodology, and it's not it doesn't show you everything in project managers. One methodology out of the many things you need in projects to be called a project management professional. Let's move on. So we've covered the first two topics, guys. I think we're doing well for time, and I think we're going to go to the very interesting parts now. So it's very difficult to train this in a short amount of time, but I'm going to do my best to cover this and to give you guys how all these things come together. So, said project management is so interesting that, as I said, it has different knowledge areas. And a lot of times, the mistake that people make, a lot of people make in trying to break into the industry, or people even trying to grow in the industries, they don't understand all those different disciplines properly. And they haven't understood how all those different knowledge areas come together because they're all helping themselves. The knowledge in one area is very crucial in application to the next area. And oftentimes, where people trip themselves, even when they go for interviews, is they haven't got the full picture. So they can't relate one area to the other. And what I'm trying to do with these three topics, and I'm going to do a very quick one on them, is to try to show you how they all link together and how, if you can demonstrate that knowledge at any interview, it'll be hard for anyone to deny you. And that's the mistake that a lot of people make when they go for multiple interviews. So I'm going to talk about raid management. I'm going to talk about project planning, and then I'll come back to project reporting. Now, RAID is an acronym. in project management, which stands for risks, assumptions, issues, and dependency. So rate management refers to the systematic process of identifying, monitoring, and managing risk assumptions, issues, and dependencies. So we have ways of identifying them, we have to monitor them, and we have to manage them. That's all rate management is all about. So rate is an acronym for risk, assumptions, issues, and dependencies. Now I'll define the four items, but where I want to spend, I'm going to spend more attention. I'm going to pay more attention, sorry, to risks and issues because they're the most common ones. Assumption and dependencies are equally good, but um, we haven't got time to cover them, and they're less. People don't pay attention to them a lot, even though they're critical. And I dare say an understanding of those can even help you in interviews as well. But let's talk about risks and issues. So risks are potential events or conditions that could lead negatively, that could negatively impact a project. So think about risk in its English form. Risk is just potential of something. It hasn't happened yet. It's just potential. So risk is something that could happen, but it hasn't happened yet. In project management, we have to be able to identify, monitor, and manage these things. We don't want them to happen to us. We want to proactively prepare in the event that these things happen, what is going to be our response? And that's what risk is all about. So the other technical bit I'll make about risk is risk in most cases are negative in most cases, but sometimes it could be positive. But that is not often talked about. I'm just making that clarification in case anyone does further studying and they find out that there are positive risks. Positive risks are called opportunities. Negative risks are called threats. I'll put them in the slide in there. But most of the time, when risks are talked about, it's in the negative perspective. But there can be opportunities for that. If you say, um, building their retirement home is going to cost £1 million. And it turns out as we go down the line, cost of items come down and you end up saving money. Rather than spending £1 million, it looks like you're going to spend £800,000. That's an opportunity. It's still a risk if it hasn't happened yet. If we think that's where we're going to land, we say we have an opportunity. So you can have risk as positive as well. But in the main, risks are seen as negative. And the main word there is potential. It hasn't happened yet, potential. Issues, on the other hand, are things that have already happened, or in a more technical way, that will 100% happen. Not many people know about the part of, the definition of, things that would 100% happen. Most people see issues as things that have already happened. So remember, risk is potential of something happening. At the due date of that risk, if it hasn't been resolved, what you now have is an issue. So if I say to you that if you can plan, my birthday is on December 25, and I want to have a birthday party December 25, 2025 this year, and you're planning the project, one of the potential risks for that project is weather issues, snowfall, for example. It may snow, it may not snow, but it's winter season. There's a potential of snows. So one of the risks you'll be managing is what if it snows? What are you going to do about it? Well, on the 25th of December, if it actually snows on that day, what you have is an issue. It's already materialized. It's already happened. So risk is a potential of something, and issue is something that has already happened, or something that will 100% happen in the near future. Let me give you an example of the 100% potential, 100% possibility of something happening. If you follow the American elections, you will know that tomorrow, 20th of January, they will inaugurate a new president because the election has happened before, and in November or so, and 100% he will be inaugurated tomorrow. So he's not the president today, but he will be the president tomorrow. As you can see, for those who follow the news, there's probably, there's news about TikTok being banned in America, and the current president is saying, you know what, I'm not going to enforce that. Why would he? Because 100% Whoever comes in tomorrow, the person coming in tomorrow can change plans and say, I don't want to go that way. So it hasn't happened yet, but it is 100% going to happen that he's going to assume office tomorrow and he may decide to go in another direction. I'm only saying that to say there's a more technical way of issues being recognized as things that would 100% happen. Not many people recognize that as an issue, but you know, we're having some good studying tonight. So I want you to know that issue isn't just something that's happened, it's also something that would 100% happen. In which case, if it happens, you got something to resolve. So an issue is something that's materialized, you got to resolve. I hope you understand that. So that's risk and that's issue. And how do we manage this? We manage risk and issues using what we call a risk and issue log, a log or a register. And I'll show you an example of a risk and issue log in a bit. But let me go very quickly and talk about assumptions and dependencies, and then I'll show you what a risk log looks like. We're not going to go far in populating one, but I'll give you broad, explanation of what it means. Assumptions are things that we assume to be true, but are not confirmed at the beginning of a project. So if I say that uh, we assume that the new incoming president in America, will attend inauguration tomorrow. We don't know for a fact he'll be there, but we know we assume he's gonna be there tomorrow. There are things we know will happen, but we can't confirm them right now because of things that will happen in the future. If you say it's going to cost, if I give you the vision of building me a five-bedroom house and you give me a plan to say, based on my knowledge, we can build this in the next 10 months, so we can build that house for you by December, there's still a big assumption there. You're assuming that the cost of materials will be what they are today. You're assuming that all the people working on that project, we're not going to have another pandemic like we did a few years ago when everything went out of the window. So there are some assumptions there. So we normally state this assumption, especially when we're planning a project. We'll say we assume that all the resources working on the project will work 9 to 5 every day for the next 10 months or whatever for us to be able to achieve it. We're putting that out there so that people don't say, oh, you promised you were going to do this and you didn't do it. We'll say we had a set of assumptions from the start. So a good way to plan is by writing a set of assumptions upon which you build your plan. Those are assumptions. Dependencies, again from the word dependencies, it just means relationships between tasks and activities. I can't do this until I do that. So um, you can't have an inauguration uh, unless you've had an election, for example. So the relationship is one precedes the other. One is a predecessor of one, or one is a successor of one. They are related. We manage dependencies because if I'm depending on someone to do something for me to be able to do my work tomorrow, if I don't call that out as a dependency for that person to manage, if it turns out tomorrow we haven't had that conversation and he hasn't done what he's supposed to do, what do I do tomorrow? Especially if I need that thing he's going to deliver to do the job. So we manage those discussions. We have handshakes, we have agreements where we're depending on ourselves. Sometimes you depend on people within your project, which is called inter-project dependency, or intra-project dependency, or you depend on people outside of your project, which is called inter-project dependency. And sometimes we also call dependencies give and get. Give dependency means there's things that's been expected from me to give to them for them to do their job. Get means there's something I'm expecting to be delivered for me to be able to do my job. We have to manage those conversations. We have to document those principles, and people have got to agree so we can manage them. So if it comes out that tomorrow I'm expecting you to have done something for me today and you haven't done it, it's not on me that I haven't delivered. It's on you that you haven't delivered, but we have to have ways of managing that. And that's what dependence is all about. So what I'll do very quickly is talking about risk and issues. So what happens is we log risk and issues as we go on a project. From when we start a project, there might be certain risks we can log them. If there are issues, normally you shouldn't have many issues. You shouldn't have issues or many issues at the start of a project because you're just starting off. What you should have is risks. What senior stakeholders don't like is when issues just drop on their lap. You need to have shown a way where you've been managing them as risks over time. But that doesn't mean that things can't just happen. Things can just happen. There's certain things that no one can see, you just get, you know, blindsided by certain events or things like natural events, America, think about the wildfire recently. If you were constructing a project, constructing a building and there's wildfire and people have lost homes and all that, and obviously it's going to affect what you're doing. So sometimes things happen, you just got to deal with them as best as possible. But usually, good project management, you want to show that your risks were identified from the start before they become issues. So what happens is once you identify those risks or issues, you put them in a log, and I'll show you, and you word them in a certain way. When you word a risk, you say there is a risk that my birthday party on December 25, 2025, uh, may be hindered or due to weather, adverse weather conditions, as there is a possibility of snowfall being winter season. In which case, if it happens, it may cause a disruption or to the event, or the event may not hold. What I've done is to give a full picture to say, what is the risk I'm managing? The event may not hold. Especially if I want to have it, if you want to have it in your house and you're inviting people coming from different parts of the country or different parts of the world, if there is weather disruptions, people can't attend. So you want to recognize that as a risk from the start, because identifying that from the start means you can have what we call a mitigation plan, a plan of action. What are we going to do if that happens? What is our response? Or can we think about maybe pushing it to another time of the year when the weather is better and there's less chances of snowfall? Or can we think of whatever else you want to think of as a plan? It's called your mitigation plan. But we must identify these things from the start. Now, I'll come back to this little hint at the bottom when I get to reporting. Just hold that thought. What I will do is to show you an example of a raid log. It's already populated with a few items. I'm not going to go deep into them. I'm just going to use them to explain to you what's important on a risk log. So this is an example of a risk log. It's got some guidance. It's one I built for an organization. It's got assumptions. It's got a tab for issues and dependencies. On the risk page, you put an ID. An ID just a unique number so you can know the difference. It's just a reference number for a risk. A lot of companies will say risk 01 or 001, and then you go to 002, blah, blah, blah. So when you refer to that reference number, you know what you're talking about. You need to have a date in which the date was raised, the risk was raised. So let's put 1901, for example, 2025. Who raised the risk? Adegoke Akanbi. Status means, is it open? So this is an example of a risk log. Every organization would have their own template, usually. Or sometimes some organizations wouldn't use classic Excel, they will use a PPM tool. A PPM tool will have roughly the same entries. So if you understand a risk log and Excel log, you should be fine on the PPM tool. You just need to learn how to use the PPM tool. But it's just saying, is it open, is it closed? Because some risk will be closed in the course of time if they're managed well. I always put an risk area, and this is something some organizations may not have. And the reason I put on risk area is to help people to think. When you're planning a project, think about things that could affect your timelines. What are the things that could affect resourcing the people working on the project? What are the things that could affect the scope of what you're delivering? If you're doing a project for the United States government at this point in time, we know we're going to have a new administration tomorrow, for example. So there's possibility that certain projects this present administration is doing, the other administration may see different. The scope could change. So when you do project, you always have to think about the things that could happen potential. What could affect the cost as well? We know cost of living has gone high in the recent years. We know that interest rate has gone high in the recent years. Um, if the petrol prices go up again or gas prices go up, it could affect some of the items we're going to purchase as part of this project in the course of the year. So what you want to say is Think about those four things: timeline, resource, scope, and cost, and think about things like, and that's a very good way to identify risks on any project. All you have to do, gather everyone in the project team together and tell them, guys, what are the things that could go wrong in our timeline? What are the things that go on in our resourcing? What are the things that go wrong in our scope or our cost? And you find that people will come up with different ideas you can populate your risk log with. And then every risk, of course, you put a title to the risk. In this case, you're saying the PMO resource. And then somebody must be assigned to be an owner. Every risk must have an owner. An owner means who's responsible for fixing it, or who's responsible, who's going to be accountable if that thing really happens, or whose lap is it going to fall on if that thing goes wrong. You have a description. There is a risk that capacity constraints in the PMO team delays momentum in the project. There is a risk that the painter the two painters painting this house have constraints, and it could delay the project, especially if one of them is ill or one of them only works part-time or whatever, you know, you describe it. And then what we do is we'll put a probability to it. A probability just means, remember we said a risk is a probability, of, it hasn't happened yet, it's a potential. So we have ways of measuring probabilities, and different organizations will have different metrics, but it's every risk log will have the same principle. So don't worry too much about it. Probability just means, is the unlikely possible, likely, very likely. It's all subjective, and you will have it a discussion, amongst yourself in the project team. And that probability description has a number, as you can see. We've used 1, 2, 3, 4 to depict those definitions, and then you have an impact. So probability of something happening is unlikely, possible, likely, very likely. Guys, what's the probability of having weather disruptions for my birthday party on December 25, 2025? You will think it's at least possible, likely, or very likely because of weather disruptions, because that's the winter season. So those things, although they're subjective, there is some sense in, coming up to some science and coming up with a grading for that probability. In terms of impact, again, you have it as insignificant, minor, moderate, major, severe. Every organization would have its own definition, so don't worry too much about this. And the guidance page is there. Every organization would have its own guidance. You go by the guidance of that organization. This is just an example. But if it snows on my birthday, December 25, and people don't turn up, what is the impact of that? You wouldn't say that's insignificant. You wouldn't say that it's minor. You wouldn't say that's moderate, especially if it's a milestone year. You would say that is major or severe. So that grading will also determine this level of visibility we give to that risk so that the people who matter know we're dealing with a big issue here. So we use this probability and impact in a way to drive attention to those risks. And then we'll have a score. The score just means a multiplication of the probability and impact. And usually when you have probability, I don't know whether the formula works here, but let's try it. See, it will come up with gradings of colors. Most people understand colors, what we call RAG, red, amber, green, using the traffic light system. Think about the traffic light system as um, green means everything is fine, keep driving. Amber means watch out, light is about to change. Red means danger, stop. It's the same thing in project management. Green means good, no problems. Amber, watch out, there could be an issue. And red means there's definitely an issue here. You got to do something about it. Don't move. If you move, somebody's going to hit you or whatever, something's going to go wrong. It's the same thing it means here. So everything that has a red color to it means we pay attention to it. And then you have mitigation steps. As I said, plans. What are we going to do to make sure this doesn't happen? So you have discussions with the head of PMO to outline the impact and assign a part-time person to be able to do the job. You recruitment commence to bring in a full-time person. So your mitigation is your action steps, what you're going to do to make sure that thing doesn't materialize. You have a date in which if it happens, it becomes an issue. You report it to different levels. There are different levels you report risks to. And then you have an update on that risk. So the owner has a responsibility to provide an update. This is what I've done regarding this risk as of today. This risk as of today. You have an update in there. And then if it closes, you put a date that you close in there, and that is it. Now, an issue log is the same thing with a risk log. The only difference, remember, risk is a potential, issue is already happened. So when it comes to issue log, you do not have probability. Everything else is the same. You just have the straight impact. There's no probability in issue. It's already happened, or it's already 100% going to happen. So there's no potential there. But the difference between the risk log and the issue log is that probability element. I hope that is clear. And that is RAID log. Very quickly. Let's move back to um, planning. Now, project planning, I've already talked about this. Project planning is a way of identifying what we want to deliver, the objectives of what we want to deliver, the activities that must happen, the sequence of those activities, how long those activities are going to take, so we can show to our stakeholders the confidence we have in which we're going to deliver the project, so we can mark ourselves against those metrics. So I know it's got a lot of words in here, but I've actually built a simple plan to show you how this works. You've got to know what you're doing in terms of project, scope of what you're delivering. You've got to plan those activities. You've got to assign resources to those activities. Who's going to do what? How long is it going to take for each activity to be for each to be completed, so you can know how long the whole thing is going to take end to end. That's why project planning itself is a niche area in project management. And some projects have project planners, some organizations have project planners. There is another tool used in the engineering environment called Primavera P6, similar to MSP in many ways, but they use that to plan. That is predominantly used in the engineering background, construction, railway industry, and you can learn to be a project planner. You earn a lot of money doing that. Or you learn the classic MSP, Microsoft project. They do the same thing, although Primavera is used in niche industry, but you become a project planner. So, talked about project planning, and what I've done is to build a simple project plan to cover with you guys. I hope you guys can see my screen now. Just take this as a rough plan that I've just built to show you how what a plan looks like on an Excel. There's sophisticated tools we can use, but we're going to use Excel for the purpose of this conversation. What I've done there is just to put, not exactly correct, we're building a mobile phone, and all I've done is just to show general common sense activities to build a plan. Now, a lot of times for you to build a plan, you need to speak to subject matter experts to be able to, so they can validate the steps and the time duration you need for each activity. But I've just produced one for you just to show you how it goes. So project starts by the sponsor, for example. This is just flow with me on this, right? Gather requirements, business analyst. Excuse my typo. Trying to rush, but design, same engineer is gonna do that. Again, remember, I'm just rough guide so you get the gist. If you were gonna build a house, the builder will tell you the steps, the electrician will tell you the steps they're gonna take, the plumber will tell you the steps you've got to take. You've got to put the activities down, put the duration down, and say who's gonna do what. That's what the plan is all about. Review it, X, Y, X, and on and on and on. All I've done there is just to say who's going to do what, right? And because this is a rough plan, it's not sophisticated, but you can still do a plan. What we try and do, what I've done here is to show each month of the year as um, 4 weeks in a year. Of Yes, we know that some months have 5 weeks, but for the purpose of this exercise, I've taken the assumption there are 4 weeks in a month. So this project is going to run between January and June. And all you do here in front of a chart is to say, how long is the project going to start? Normally, we use something called milestones in projects. Milestones are key reportable dates. Think about milestones in English. It just means significant date. So what we do in project management is when it comes to those significant dates, we want to make sure we report on them. So a significant date in form of building a house will be foundation finished, electrical work finished, design approved, plumbing finished, plumbing commenced, plumbing finished. Those key things where it takes a number of things to do them, but you want to show when significant things have happened so you can report them to your stakeholders so they can have confidence that you're doing what you're supposed to do. So we always use milestones to depict those reportable steps in the project. And what we do in project is we use the cone. What I've done here is to bring a is a shape called a cone. We use cone generally to show milestones, and I'm going to make this bit small. Oh, actually, well, that's not responding. Good, it's responding now. All I'm going to show here is that the project starts first week in January. To gather the requirements is going to take 2 weeks. All I'll do is show that week 2 and week 3, we're going to gather the requirements. Where is my color? To design is going to take 2 or 3 weeks. That's my color. To review, it's going to take 1 week. Design to be signed off, that's a milestone because it's a reportable date, right? And by doing this, what you're doing, if we continued all the steps, is to show where things are as you deliver a project. This view is called the Gantt chart. This area is called the Gantt chart. Now, this Excel is crude, but you get the gist. What you're trying to show in front of a picture is what you're doing when you're doing it. So a senior stakeholder can look at this and say, oh, good, your design is going to be signed off in the third week in Feb. Oh, fantastic. And then when we have these colors here, these colors again go with the rack system as well. We're showing what is good. We're showing what is the green means everything is going on well. If we have any concerns and we have risks, we can make that amber. When I look at this, right, I'm thinking you're telling me in the second week and third week you got some concerns in there. So you're passing information to be. There are forms of reports that we do in project management, and that's why we represent in this way. But if we had a more sophisticated tool, and I'm not going to attempt to show you how to use MSP, I've gone to pick up a cheap planning tool called what's it called Project Plan 365, a cheap one online to show you. And all you do is you put all those tasks in there, as you can see. You put the duration in there. You put resource then who's doing it in there. Predecessor just means what's got to be done before the other. In this case, we know that you can't gather the requirements until the project has started. So you say the predecessor for gathering requirements is project start. So you put number one in this in here. All you're saying is you're going to gather requirements when the project has started. If you put on number three, you put predecessor task here as making number two, you're saying for me to do design, I got to have finished the gathering requirements. And you can see the picture to the right is starting to show some nice things in there. And those things tell stakeholders something, right? And that's why we do planning. So you put all the activities in there, put the duration in there, you assign who's doing that. Usually you speak to technical people. So in COVID, I had no way of knowing how a testing capacity was built. But once I spoke to people who know how it's done, the operations people, I can represent what they're doing in form of a plan and show to our stakeholders where we are on a weekly basis to show progress. And you can see it has in there percentage complete. When things are done, you put 100% in there. When I have done, as you can see, it would have, so you can see there's a big blue sign in the middle of that. It just tells you what's complete. It tells you what's at 50%. You can put things at 20%, etc., etc. This way, in a project team meeting, you can use this plan to drive actions. Oh, Mr. Tom, Mr. Ian, oh, excuse my typo. This is what you're doing this week. What's your progress, to that? Any issues? And if he says, well, things are going on well, but I think one of my staff is one of the painters is got flu. He hasn't come to work today. I just want to see whether he'll come to work tomorrow. If it does, fine. If it doesn't, then I might have an issue. You want to make that amber so that you can show to people there's something you're managing there. Does that make sense? And that's how a plan works. Lastly, I'll now take you into reporting. A report is an essential part of project management. Is the way we focus on communicating progress to our stakeholders. We want to show them where we are. We want to be transparent. We want to show them what we're doing well, what problems we're having without anyone being in our team meeting. So we write what we call a report. And normally, you, all things we do in project management can lead to reporting, by the way. That plan that I just showed you is a form of report. The raid that we went through earlier on is a form of report. But what I like to show you is what we call a status report, which brings in those two things we've just talked about into life. As you can see, it tells us this report is weekly. It will tell us a project name, the date report was written. The project manager holds a pen for a project status report. A program manager holds a pen for a program status report. A portfolio manager holds a pen for a portfolio report. I hope you get the gist. Every project will have a date which is issued because that report is only valid as of the date which it is produced. There are keys in there to show that when things are red, things are off track. Actually, I'm going to. The keys at the bottom, so when things are red, they're off track. When they're amber, it means there are concerns. When they are green, it shows that things are on track. And when things are complete, it shows them as blue. And you can see on there, it shows a section for executive summary. It shows a path to green. What that path green is there for is to show you when a project is green, when things are on track, there's no need for a path to green. So when things are on track, you want to say a project is on track, all deliverables are on track to deliver as per baseline, no concerns whatsoever. You can then say what things have been done. You don't need a path to green for that. If you say project is reporting amber due to certain members of staff or key resources reporting sick due to COVID or flus or flu outbreak or whatever. Now you're saying that the project is going well, but we have concerns. What you must do is to include what you're going to do to make it green, and that's why we have there path to green. So this path to green is used when the project is reporting amber or red. The project is green, you're not returning to green, so you don't need that. That path to green, or sometimes called return to green, is specifically there for when you use an amber and red status, so you can show exactly what you're going to do to make it green. Guys, we're doing some high level stuff here. We're doing some great stuff here because um, part of what I teach organizations is how to write report. Many people who have worked in project for many, many years still don't know how to write reports. It's not just words. It must mean something. And that's why it's called executive summary. The executive people haven't got time to read 20 pages. You've got to be able to get your point across in 2, 3, 4 lines at most. They get hundreds of emails daily, so you want to go straight to the point. That's why it's called executive summary. So project is reporting red due to staff absences. This absences has led to critical dates being missed, and project needs to explore options to mitigate those issues. Path to green, project considering recruiting or bringing in temporary staff to cover, and this option will be explored by tomorrow, 20th of January. What you're saying to the executive there is, these are the concerns we have, and this is what we're doing to bring it to line. Because sometimes what you need to bring it back to green might be decision from senior people. And that's why you must put it in here. So when an exec reads this or senior stakeholder reads it, they know exactly what you're doing well and what your problems are. You can see in there it has key achievements. The key achievements should list the things you've been able to achieve in the period in which you wrote the last report. This is weekly, so you want to state in there the things you've achieved in the last 1 week. Focus for next period means things you're planning for next week. And how do you get this? You look at your plan. Got a plan that shows activities you do daily, weekly, or whatever. So you go in there and populate in there the things you've done because you'd have done it, you'd have marked it as complete, and the things you're planning for the next period it should be there. You can see how the report is bringing elements of your risk, your issues, and your planning. This is how to write a report, not just words. You can see the milestones in there. We just talked about milestones in the previous page. The baseline dates means the date which we've agreed to do these things. But sometimes, as we say, things may change. Sometimes the date you want to do this may not move from 20th of January to the 24th of January. If it moves, the date has been agreed is called the baseline date. The new date you're going to deliver it now is called the forecast date. You will have a rag in there. If the date in which you've agreed, you're now going to deliver beyond that date, that's definitely a red. It means you're not delivering as per agreement. And there's no problem with that. You might have a good reason. All you need to do is make this. So if I say foundation complete, and you plan on completing the foundation on the, let's say, yeah, 10th of January 2025, but it looks like this is now going to complete 20th of January 2025. That is definitely a red. You make that red. And what are you going to do? You put a commentary. A commentary is mandatory for any red or amber milestones. It means what are you going to do to bring that back to green, right? Extra resources have been drafted. I'm just creating this top of my head. Have been drafted. This is now set to complete on the new forecast date because you've brought in extra people who have done long hours to remedy the situation. But until it's done, you've got to do your reports this way. So you've brought in elements of your plan into this. This way, you're giving the full picture to stakeholders. And again, you have down there risk and issue. You pick your top risk and issue from your risk and issue log and you drop it in here. So what you do normally is you just copy and paste things from your risk and issue log to the risk and issue section in here. And then you copy things from your plan into the milestone section and you make sure the commentaries are right. If you have any escalations, you put it in there and you can rag your schedule, cost, scope, and resources in there based on how you are. And what this does is it gives the full picture to the stakeholder to know exactly what's going on in the project. It tells them that, it tells them your successes and your struggles and where you need them to help you or to be aware that you haven't been able to do this for X and Y reason. It gives them the complete picture without them attending your project team meetings. That's why we produce this status report. Sometimes some organizations do it weekly, some do it fortnightly, some do it monthly. Regardless of the cadence, the principle is the same. Again, this is why people sometimes struggle at interview because they haven't been able to bring all these elements together. You have to be able to bring those elements together and demonstrate good knowledge of linking things. And they're very simple. Once you understand each discipline properly, hence the reason why I always believe you've got to teach the principle behind each knowledge area, not just telling people you can work in project management. This is a report. You must understand the principle behind each knowledge area. That way, no one can deny you any interview, and that way, no one can deny you on any role because you understand how everything fits together. So if somebody says, if you look at a job description that talks about, we need somebody who's very good at managing stakeholders, producing, project planning, risk and issues, as you see on job description, go to that interview and talk about the things we've talked about tonight, of course, in more detail. Bring all this knowledge together. It makes no difference what organization it is. It makes no difference who's interviewing you. You have operated at a level, at a very, very high level to be able to get the job. And not only would you get the job, you will have a fulfilling time on that role. And that's how all these knowledge areas come together. I think I'm going to rush through the next couple of slides and then we'll take your question and answers. Why do we need project management, guys? Keep your questions. I know I've rushed through those slides. Those are big knowledge areas that I need about 30 minutes to 40 minutes to teach each of those knowledge areas normally. So we've covered in a few minutes what would take about 2 hours to cover. But yeah, bear with me. We have time constraints. Why do we need project management? Project management's very simple. If you want to leverage your transferable skills by definition are skills you've acquired in other industries. I myself said came from an energy consultancy background. I started off doing sales when I was in university. You do learn a lot of communication there. You learn a lot of people skills. Most of us have had experiences in other industries that you can apply here. You know, whether in healthcare industry, customer service, whatever, you can bring those skills into project management. Um, it does give a lot of career prospects. It can add value. It can boost your career and give you new skill set. As I said, you don't even have to go into tech as an industry. You can use that to boost your existing skill and rise up the ranks in your whatever chosen organization. It increases your earning potential depending on sector, level, location, country, and budget. Goes without saying. I'll go through the next slide, which shows about the earning potential in project management. It is not specific to any industry. It cuts across all sectors. I've talked about that. I've worked in brewing industry, health industry, NHS England, Department of Health, insurance companies, financial services, retail companies. The list is endless. Gambling industry, so it cuts across all industries. There's project management everywhere. PMI came out with a report in 2020 that on average, companies lose an average of 11.4% of investments wasted in organizations with poor project managed performance. Just imagine an organization that's investing £100 million in a year to deliver projects. Without adopting project management principles properly and doing things properly, you could be wasting £11.4 million. That's a lot of money to waste and not just waste the money. You may deliver things that are not fit for purpose. That's the reason why you have project management professional. That's one of the reasons why you would normally have a portfolio office, and that's where our job comes into place to go into this organization systems and processes they have and improve their framework so they can deliver properly. According to PMI, list of 11 countries, UK that we are, being one of them, US, Canada, UAE, will require about 87.7 million individuals in project management oriented roles through 2027. People keep asking, or people keep saying the industry is saturated. It is true there's a lot of people going for many roles nowadays, but it's also true that the quality of people looking for those roles is perhaps for me at an all-time low, and that's perhaps a testament to how ineffective a lot of um, trainings are today. That's my view. I think it was better back in the days. I think now everybody's doing this, and many people are doing it very badly, I'll say. But the jobs are there. If you know what you're doing and you head well and tutor well, there's no reason why you should struggle. On an annual basis, about 2.2 million new project roles are created. Every organization runs January to December financial year. They release budgets in January and February. Everyone is hiring. Some organizations run April to March. But there are 2.2 million new roles. I don't mean old roles, new roles. Every organization project budget is always increasing most of the time. So there's opportunities there. It says that by 2027, the GDP of these countries will reach about 20.2 trillion as far as project management is concerned. Now, it goes without saying, three of the biggest companies in the world today by capital or market share are IT companies. It used to be oil companies back in the day, so tech is the new oil, basically. With all these opportunities means there's a lot of high-paying opportunities in project management. You guys can do the research yourself. Now, finally, there are three roles, and I'm going to rush through this very quickly. There are three roles most people start off with when it comes to project management. One is project manager, two is PMO analyst, and the third one is project support officer, PMO support, project coordinator, project administrator. Sometimes it's about just semantics. It just means the entry level into projects. So you don't have to have any serious analytical skill set to be able to function at that level. So I'll talk you through what is required. I'm sorry, for these roles, you need a mix of technical skills, especially if you want to be a project manager. You need to have technical skills, you need to know how to plan, which we talked about tonight. You need to know how to manage a budget, which we haven't covered that tonight. It's another knowledge area. Remember, I talked about how for you to be able to go into the field confidently and properly, you need to have those 12 knowledge areas. I think it's about 12 or 13 knowledge areas in the bag. If you have that in the bag, it makes no difference what organization you go to, private or public, you will smash it to pieces. But you need to understand those. You need to know, have some strategic and business management skills. You need to have some industry knowledge. So think about if you want to be a project manager in the construction side, but you don't understand anything in construction, you're going to struggle. I don't know any DIY, so I couldn't be a project manager in a construction site. There's no way it's going to happen. Or if I try it, I'm going to struggle. So normally, project managers are people, or project managers go into areas where they have some sort of industry knowledge. If you've been in finance for a long time, you can acquire skills in project management and then become a project manager in finance. If you've been in an engineering background, you can acquire project management knowledge and function because you will understand the things they're talking about there. It's hard to understand in insurance as a project manager if you're project managing a project that's dealing with underwriting or whatever. I'm not sure you can understand underwriting within a day or two. So it's normally easier to be a project manager in an industry that you understand. Of course, you got to have leadership skills, communication, problem solving, stakeholder management, and the likes. That's who becomes a project manager. In terms of opportunities there. Normally, people start off as junior project manager, which is the entry level. Not many organizations have that nowadays, but the rates are there, anything from £300 plus, anything from up to £45,000 plus. You can then move to a project manager level, which is a mid-level management. Many people start off as project managers as well. There's no problem if you have a subject matter expert in an area and you acquire knowledge, you gain some experience, you can debut in project management as a project manager, which is mid-level. It goes for anything from £300 to £500 up to £65,000 plus. Now, all these numbers are numbers that I've got from Indeed, Glassdoor, and Reed. Now, I know that many people earn way more than that, you know, but these are just verifiable numbers provided by those websites. You can move on to a senior project manager level, managing more complex projects, and you can anything to, up to £700 plus, more than 85, up to £85,000 plus. And you can rise. Remember, I said project program portfolio, program level, program manager up to £900 plus and up to £100,000 plus. And the portfolio manager, say portfolio management is the highest level of project management, anything to £1,000 plus to £120,000 plus. Actually, I've never worked with any portfolio manager that's earned less than £1,200 plus or thereabout. But again, these are numbers. We have to go with the websites because we're referencing them. So we go with that. But you can go on job sites and LinkedIn and check the numbers yourself. These are not they're not hidden numbers. Now, remember, I said it's a project manager route, or you can go through what we call the PMO or project support route. Now, that's what I'm going to talk about next. Now, for this one, um, what I like to say is you need all the same leadership skills as a project manager, but you do not need to have subject matter expertise in an industry. So to be a PMO analyst, you need to understand the subject matter, technical skills as a project management professional, and you can use your knowledge the same way across industries. You plan projects the same way you plan projects in finance industry. It's the same way you plan projects in construction industry or in um, insurance or in NHS or wherever. So I always advise people who don't have any subject matter expertise in any area to go down the PMO route or project support route if you haven't got much experience in corporate environment. So if you have a subject matter expertise, go for what you want as a project manager. But to be a PMO analyst, again, the lowest level of project entry is PMO support or project support, or sometimes They're called project coordinators. Anything up to £300 plus a day is a day rate contract, up to £45,000 plus. And the PMO analyst, which I think if you have some experience working before, so I'll always say to people who don't have any experience at all to go to PMO support route or project support route. But if you've had some experience in any corporate environment, you can definitely work as a PMO analyst across different industries, and the day rates goes to up to £450 plus and up to £60,000 plus. As a PMO lead, that's not getting to senior level. Now you can work as a PMO lead working on programs, or you can work on portfolio as well, or you can be a PMO manager. A PMO manager just manages the project management office for an organization. It's anything up to £650 plus a day daily rate, and uh definitely more than 80. I don't know any PMO manager personally that's earning less than £120,000 in terms of permanent in terms of salaries. Day rates definitely way more than that. But again, I've got to go with verifiable numbers and a reference, numbers you can reference. When you get to the head of PMO level or PMO director, then it's £1,000 plus, up to £1,000 plus, from 6 weeks to £1,000 plus, and more than £120,000 plus in salary, or the highest level, the chief project officer, definitely more than £1,020 plus a day, and more than £150,000 a day. Okay, this depends on the industry. Some industries pay more than others. So finance, insurance pay a lot more than public sector, for example. But yeah, we got to go with numbers we can reference. So, guys, we've come to the end of the session. Sorry, I rushed you guys. I think I could have done this. I could have finished this by 9:30 and take questions for 30 minutes, but this is the time to ask all your questions. So that's
Okay, thanks
so
so much for that amazing session tonight. And as I was saying, that is just one of the most thorough um, sessions that we've had presented here. And we have had some amazing presenters. Whilst I ask this question, I'll just pause the recording for one moment just for you to change the consulting here. So I know that I've rushed you to get this, but
oh,
consulting
my apologies.
website and the Instagram as well. But it's not a problem at all. So if
Yeah,
you
okay.
change that, I'd just like to ask the question for anyone on this workshop tonight who may actually be in Africa, for example. You didn't actually emphasize the need for project management in those countries.
Yeah,
What might you have to say to them, please?
right. That's a very good question. So what I'll say is tech and project management, by extension, is one of the areas of practice where the knowledge you acquire and the experience you acquire, wherever you acquire it, is can be used in any country in the world. So I have consulted for companies outside the shores of the UK, in the Emirates, in America, and a lot in Europe, um, without having to retrain to whatever standards they have in that country. If you were a medical doctor, a nurse, a lawyer, an engineer, whatever, there's certifications, there's trainings, conversions you have to do. In tech, you're good to go, which means you can look for a role in other jurisdictions in the world. Um, so there are remote roles from Africa, in terms of those who want to seek opportunities outside of Nigeria or outside, the countries in Africa. And there are also roles within those countries themselves that you can seek. So you got both options. Um, a lot of people we train are able to get visa sponsorship on roles in the UK. A very small number of people who are based in Nigeria. A lot of them are based in the UK with other different visa conditions, but you can get visa sponsorship. Tech and project management is one of those industries where you can have visa sponsorship. So if you're based in Nigeria, you can learn the skill and look for jobs outside of the shores of Nigeria without having to retrain. The same tools you use, is the same tools that are used everywhere in the world. or you can look for opportunities, high-paying opportunities as well in uh, in Nigeria and Africa. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. And what I was hoping that you'd do, and that I hope that you'd agree that there is a need for sound project
Oh,
management back
absolutely,
in Africa, just
absolutely,
as there is abroad, because we
absolutely.
have many projects, many contracts with the government, with
Yes,
different governments in Africa, with different financial institutions, different construction projects across Africa. So if you're based abroad, whatever country you're in
mm,
outside of the UK, there is an opportunity for you to work in project management based on the skills and knowledge that have that you started to learn here tonight. So
absolutely.
please don't view this as, with the figures that have been presented, the salaries that are presented, you might be thinking, well, I'm not actually in the UK, so that
Oh,
doesn't apply to me. But there is room for you to become a
absolutely.
successful
Yes.
project management professional wherever you are. So please take that on board. And I'll now let you go through the questions in the chat window from 9:15.
Yes,
Thank
that's
you.
fine. Thank you. And just to add to what Ibukun said earlier, one of our trainers, training for cybersecurity, is actually based in Nigeria, and he's the head of I don't want to mention the name of the cybersecurity, with the biggest cybersecurity company in the world, and he heads West Africa. Gets paid in US dollars and has been for the past 10 years. He's actually my best friend and my closest friend. So you don't really, and he has no need, there's no incentive for him to come to the West. He's never considered it because he lives like a king back home. Um, just to add that. In terms of questions, so I'm going to 9:15, I've been told. Based on explanation on RAID, can we look through the lens of personal analysis in managing? Thanks. I don't know what personal analysis is. If you explain that to me, then I'll be able to answer that question. Uh, thank you so much, very likely. Can we get the slides for presentation? I think it will come as answer the question. Um, Okay, where do we have Scrum Master, Product Owner, Agile Delivery Manager, RT fall in Project Management career? So Scrum Master, as we said, fall into the Agile environment, the Agile methodology environment. Scrum Masters are, they facilitate Scrum teams. So the way I always advise people is, I think even if you're going to learn Scrum, I think you should still learn project management, because a lot of times Scrums are delivered as part of a bigger piece of people who understand project managers. That's where you have the delivery leads, um, because it's wrapped under a project. A Scrum Master isn't necessarily managing finance, and doing other things, isn't necessarily writing the closure reports, isn't necessarily writing the business case. So project management is a bigger piece. So I'll always advise people, even though you're going to learn Scrum, I think you should know project management definitely to expand. And uh, yeah, I think you should learn project management as well. So product manager, again, you're in a product delivery environment, operating under Scrum or Agile because you're building products. So you have a Scrum Master, you have a product owner, a product manager who manage the products you build for that organization. And product managers are usually people that own those products from inception till the product gets retired from that organization. So you find product managers in an agile environment, not in a waterfall environment. Um, so agile delivery manager, yeah, you just again you managing agile projects, but you're doing the project management element of it. Again, I would say learn project management. If you learn Scrum as well, you can marry both and you become an agile delivery manager or art or release train engineer as well. But I've always advised people against just learning Scrum alone, because I think what you find in the industry, for those who want to be honest about the industry, is you realize that Scrum is a very good skill, but it's also now um, many people are being trained to become Scrum Masters. Um, and just because, like I said, you're delivering this Scrum element of a big delivery, what you find is if you learn Scrum and you learn Project Manager, you become more in demand. I've functioned as Scrum Masters twice, but I wouldn't call myself a Scrum Master. But I can do everything the Scrum Master does. I just can't train it. It's not my area of expertise, but I functioned as Scrum Master. The first time I did that was 12 years ago at Transport for London, TfL, and more recently with AXA Insurance a few years ago. If you wish to learn more, yes, our page is now up. Reach us at admin@promastersconsulting.com. Our phone number is there, 074. Take a screen grab of this page, take a picture. Our website is promastersconsulting.com. Our Instagram is ProMasters Consulting as well. We had a taster session yesterday for our new cohort, which begin this Saturday, 25th of January. So what we normally do is do a taster session so people can learn about project management. If they wish to proceed, they then register, and we have different packages for them to get on. But yeah, reach us on Instagram or the phone number there, or email us at admin@ProMasters. I'll go to our website. You can read a lot of information, what we're about, who our trainers are. So that all our trainers are, you can check them out on LinkedIn. They are real people. Yeah, we're free to, we'll be happy to support you in whatever you wish to do. So, but for those who want to get on the new cohort, definitely starting on Saturday. We have us we run the training in 3 months, 6 weeks of training, 6 weeks of work experience, making 3 months, and then of course CV, LinkedIn optimizations, interview preparation, where we actually break down interviews. We don't do guesses with interviews, break it down in detail. On all our students, no, let me rephrase. Most of our students, the good ones, the very serious ones, first or second time of interviews, we're not selling it. That's what it is because of our methods. Um, what's the future of project management in relation to AI, and how can PMs benefit from AI disruption? AI is here to stay. Um, for those who are not using it, they will soon find that, a lot of things we're doing nowadays, I can produce a slide or I can produce a report now in minutes. Now, you don't use that document verbatim. I hope you know that, but it gives you a draft. Think about a CV. Back in the days, it used to take us a long time, many, many days sometimes to edit your CV. Now you can do it in minutes. AI will do, ChatGPT will do a draft for you. Don't ever copy the word for word. You got to put you got to have an input in it, but it gives you a draft. So it is an enabler. It is an addition to it. And for those who know how to use those, you will definitely get more opportunities in the industry. Everybody must use them as far as I'm concerned. If you don't, you soon find yourself irrelevant because people who are using it are going to take the job away from you. It's as simple as that. Um,
Could I just say something there?
yes,
So
please, please.
a similar point was made about using AI for CVs yesterday, and I mentioned that it's important that we first of all draft our CVs ourselves. If you're going
Absolutely.
to use AI, that is,
Yes,
it's important that you construct your CV, and then if you want to pass it through AI, you can do that. And then
absolutely.
the output, you then actually go in and you then tailor that again
Tailor
and
that
make sure that it's fit, that it actually
for you.
represents you. But if
Absolutely.
you simply go in and type in a prompt asking AI to chat GPT rather to construct a CV for you, you
Ah,
may find that when you attend an interview, you're not able to talk to that CV because it doesn't actually accurately reflect you. You
absolutely.
may find that even if you're able to talk to that CV where you've practiced things, you've practiced talking to it, when you're now asked a follow-up question, you may not be able to answer that. So if you're going to use AI, if you're going to use ChatGPT, then you need to make absolutely sure that you're feeding into it what you can do, what
Yeah,
you can defend at an interview, what you
absolutely.
learn, what you've learned to do, what you've done using your own hands. so that you can articulate exactly what you've done at an
ab-
interview. Now, a second part to that question specifically is that there will be many AI implementation projects. So a lot of companies are implementing AI tools. A lot of companies are developing or enhancing their websites using ChatGPT or using a chatbot of different types. We actually did such a similar project through the ladder back down recently, and I recognize that a member of our board executives is here on this today, Mr. Idris, who was involved in supervising. And I've also got Hadassah as well, who was also a key program project manager on that project, as in previous projects.
mm,
So we have enhanced our website, and there are a lot of companies that are using AI. So if you're looking for a project manager role, in a company that's looking to implement AI, that's a further opportunity for you
absolutely,
wherever you are across the globe.
absolutely, absolutely. And just to add to what she said, actually two things I wanted to add to that. One is there was I had a lady I was mentoring who went into the business analysis route who wouldn't listen and decided to use AI for everything. She was asked. I hate to say that she was fired in October last year because the boss found out that everything was done on AI. So you cannot place the human effort. AI is an enabler. It's supposed to help, but it cannot replace human, and it can't replace human. It can't. It's not a substitute for human interaction. So I'll say copying things straight from AI without doing any work is not going to work. I said this person was sacked from a permanent job. So um, make of that what is right. And then secondly, yes, responsible AI is actually a big uh, project in where I currently work. Got a huge budget, very close to 20 million pounds. I've never seen anything like that before. Such is the scope of AI. And that project is the beast of a program. Actually, there's a program, it's a beast of a program. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities in AI, definitely. And Jide is asking the question in insurance, MSc in insurance, master degree in risk management. Ooh, wow, looking good already. I wish to learn more about project management if I could get a job in the UK. Well, all I'll say is contact us, Jide. You're one of those that can actually get a job. With that experience, you can get a job in insurance. Yeah, I work in the London market insurance, and people like you who they're looking for in that industry. And that is not just here, I said, even in Nigeria, um, there's opportunities there. I'm sure if we get your project management knowledge uh, up to a good level. But yeah, reach us today. Political, economic, social, technology, legal environment. All right, that's the question on PESO. So let me go back to it then. So the question is, can you mix? All right. Sorry, missed that question on PESO. Okay, yeah. Based on the submission rate, can we look through the lens of personal analysis and managing it? So now, I guess what you're saying, can we look through the lens of political, economic, social? Absolutely. Now that you've explained that to me, many projects has been run um, by we have in America as an example, you have a different party coming in, different ideology. Clearly, certain projects that are being run by this present administration are going to get binned. You should know that already. So, yes, a political knowledge would have an effect on that. Economic not headwinds and stuff like that, definitely. There are many projects that would have to take into account economic shocks, social, technology, legal. Absolutely. I worked in the post office when they had issues with the postmaster issues were rising. I mean, I joined them many years after the rising issues, and I wrote the business case to change the platform, the Horizon platform, into the new system called SPM. So that's got a lot of legal complications because there's still the case going on in court right now against the postmasters. So yes, Absolutely. Now that I understand what PESTLE is, you see, we keep learning every day. 100% you can look at rate management using PESTLE analysis. I hope that's clear. Right. More useful for business analysis as a tool that helps business understand the external factors. Yep, yep, you're right. I don't know your name, but yes, you are right. What else?
May I just mention that I've been asked a question which I've asked the person who asked me directly to ask the question openly. So
Yes,
I emphasize that as is the case with every single instructor that comes here, so we just at the ladder back down, we will promote any firm that we believe can add value to our members' lives. However, we do not charge a fee or obtain a fee for bringing to your attention instructors and firms like ProMasters. So the question asked of me is, might this delegate qualify for a discount? So I've said they need to ask the question openly rather than ask me because I haven't brought you here
yeah,
based on a fee or a retainer or anything like that.
absolutely, yeah,
So
yeah,
that would question would be between yourself and them once they actually contact your
yes,
admin office rather
yes,
than
yes, yeah,
between me and you because I don't get involved in
yeah,
anything at all. My main aim is to bring industry experts like Goke to your attention. And then once you've actually tasted what they've presented, like as of today, you can then actually reach out to them and then go for that mentorship, go for that training, go for that tutoring that will enable you to get a job.
yes. Thanks very much, Bukuna. Yes,
You're
I
welcome.
mean, as she said, that's the reason why I didn't prepare this page because there's no business exchange on this at all. I would have prepared this before the session. I didn't think of talking about. I just come to deliver the training because it's something that Bukuna, as I said, that's always done. She's always done this even before I came to ladder back. I've known she's done this for a very, very long time. So yeah, in terms of discounts, yeah, if people from ladder back, as long as so I've just been told by my admin actually that number is on WhatsApp. Just reach out on WhatsApp on that number or send us an email. It's that number is just for WhatsApp. Um, if you do come through Ladderback, then I will honor the discount that I gave to the guys who joined the taster session yesterday, and we can talk about that. But again, that's no agreement with the Bukund. It's purely from us at the Pro Masters. We did give a discount to the delegates who attended our taster session yesterday. We will honor the same discount to you because you joined us tonight. So yeah, I can confirm that. Um, I think industries are easy to pivot into. Um, I have no, it depends on what you're doing, Romo, if that's the name. If you want to be a PMO or project support, all industries are game as far as I'm concerned.
Mhm.
Public sector is easier than the private sector. Financial services are harder than others. That's just all I need to say. But all industries for me is fair game if you want to go as a PM or a project support. If you want to be a project manager, of course, because that's informed by your knowledge of that industry, then it is what it is. Just gain a good training in project management and you'll be able to hold your own in any industry. So in terms of industries, I don't know which is easier, but I just know the general rule is public sectors are easier than private sectors. Financial services are slightly more difficult than others. And when I say financial services, insurance, banking, could be a bit more challenging. But all of them are within reach. We don't prescribe any industry for anyone. The knowledge and training is good for every industry. I think we're down to the last two questions. You can look at roles in supply chain management. Yep. Transport, freight operations, business operations. Yep. 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 All industries. Is that for us at the Pro Masters? We don't have a preference. We do all industries. All our students get industries. I mean, get jobs. And I mean, we had two in advertising last week. One with NHS England. One with a bank. It's the training is good enough for every industry. But yeah, private sector harder than public sector. Financial services sometimes can be harder, not always, but sometimes can be just because they're just about the bottom line. But yeah, that's the general rule I would say. I think I've answered all the questions. Again, take a screen grab of this. The phone number is WhatsApp only, guys. Send a WhatsApp or send an email or reach us on Instagram and our admin talk to you. And yeah, if you do come along, I will honor the discount I gave to the guys doing the taster course yesterday. So yeah, thank you very much. It's been fun. I've enjoyed it. I hope I've answered
Thank
all your
you.
questions, and I'll definitely come back again. Or actually, I'm here to stay. So um, speak to you guys soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that has been a real thorough, as I said, once more, real thorough engagement tonight. And you gave us more than I was expecting. I've definitely learned some new things. So thank you very much. And I really hope that every single member that has taken the time to attend has enjoyed the session just as well as I have, just as much as I have. So thank you all. Have a good night. And I'll post the link to this in the Telegram community. And I'll also make sure that if you want to visit the ladder back down on www.ladderbackdown.com, you'll also see that video up there by midday tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
Good night for
you.
now.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank
you
Good
very
night,
Bye.
much.
everyone.
Thank you